Kia ora everybody, what's up? It is Robett. Welcome to Robett Live. I am joined by world-class New Zealander, Delwyn Moller, all the way from Wanaka. Wanaka,
Woohoo.
Wanaka. How are you going?
Not too bad, adjusting to this whole lockdown lifestyle.
Now, for those who don't know, I'll give this quick little intro because it's ridiculously tech. You just talk. What do you just call yourself? A technical tech something?
Well, I'm a technology phobic technologist.
Technology phobic technologist. As a Dr. Calvin K. Moller, a principal systems engineer at Remote Sensing Solutions, an adjunct professor at the University of Auckland. She received a PhD degree in electrical engineering from the University of Massachusetts after completing the ME degree and BE degree honours at the University of Auckland. She joined NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL, where she worked on radar technology, primarily with a focus toward Earth science. Both at JPL and RSS, she developed innovative state-of-the-art remote sensing systems for measuring critical aspects of the Earth's surface to support science research and applied scientists. Brains. Love it. Great. Do you wake up like in the middle of the night with all sorts of random ideas about things that you have to write down? How does your brain work? Like when you think about stuff.
Happen.
Yeah.
I'll kind of go through creative surges where suddenly connections are coming in, and yeah, I'm waking up in the night and kind of got to pull this together, and I've got to take care of that over there, and
how does your brain
and then
structure it?
Well, unusually, my brain doesn't work in a very organized fashion. It's kind of if I'm going to be geeky, it's a kind of a stack. So it's a first in, first out kind of thing. Yep. And that's how I deal with email and things like that. It's like whatever it is, it's a stream.
Yeah. But your thing, just because I'm just quite intrigued, to be like document and then out, and then it's fresh again in your head, or like clear it and like do you get that system?
I kind of, when it depends on what it is. There's different phases of projects. And when you're really working something up and you kind of, multitasking it out and that kind of thing, that's kind of the busy stuff. But when you're going into the new formulation, that's where it goes into a backup processor, and there's a timeline to it. You can't hurry that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like trying to rush art. You can't force that sort of creativity. Okay. So we've been doing, you haven't seen the shows, we've been talking to a whole bunch of like epic Kiwis doing cool stuff from all sorts of sectors, mostly sort of business and travel and entrepreneurship and a whole wide range, which has been cool. And what I wanted to, I guess, kick off with is you obviously spend a lot of time in the States. You spend a lot of time obviously back and forth from New Zealand. You got out of the mix. At a macro level, what do you think that this means for humanity?
By this, you mean the
Corona,
the whole COVID thing?
The whole thing, like because obviously with the earth sciences, the sensing, you don't know if it's clickbaity type stuff. They're talking about like dolphins have been seen here and all these other things. But from a humanity level, maybe we'll talk about the earth and then the humans. What's been the most interesting thing you've?
I think like everybody else, this is a process, right? There's kind of this continuing, it's been changing so quickly. Our realities, our daily realities have been changing so quickly. Life a few weeks ago was so different to life now. And we don't know where this is going to unfold and unravel. And frankly, at the beginning, I kind of, again, like a lot of people, went into almost this depressed state. You wake up every day and it's Groundhog Day. And what's the point and why am I doing this? And, we don't know where this is going to shake out, and it is profoundly changing. But where I take hope, because you have to find hope, is one in the resiliency of nature, which is profound. And we're seeing that. And also the resiliency of humans. We're in this situation where we're unable to really be in physical contact. But people are finding ways in the community to reach out and support, either virtually or there's been, little neighborhood, you yell across the fence, you have a little dinner party with your neighbors, except you're across the fence and at a distance. Yep. And so I find that actually heartening, finding ways to support each other. And being in New Zealand at this time, the leadership that we've got, but also the sentiment that, you know, you never really, I can't imagine really hearing at a political level in the US of be kind. You know, there's a human element that's being put forward at a national political level, saying that's acknowledging that we need to be kind to each other. And that's actually, you know, notable and heartening to me.
Does it make you more hopeful that New Zealanders' souls seem to be sitting in the right place with true care for each other, especially with community?
I hope so. And, you know, when I do go out to the grocery store or for the daily walk, because we're separated and we don't have those normal interactions, when I see somebody walking the other direction, I'm trying to make that point of smiling, saying hello. Just those little human interactions really count for making you feel better in your day. And it's always the case, but now more than ever, it's a good reminder and a good takeaway to remember that stuff matters.
And in our lifetime and in the last, I guess, in all humanity, our world's never stopped like this for this amount of time, right? Has there been enough data come out already to show that the Earth is, you know, healing or doing better? And I've seen these photos of people seeing the Himalayas, and there's all these kind of things, and you never know what's fake news and what's real. But from a science data perspective, what is factual and true that you definitely know to be real?
So currently, I haven't looked at the kinds of data records I tend to look at or generate, because I'm the engineer, not the scientist, tend to be fairly long-term data records, if you like, you know, looking at the glaciers in Greenland, and we did annual surveys of marine terminating glaciers in Greenland, and now we're looking at what those mass balance changes are over multiple years. So what can we see in a very short time frame? Well, what's interesting to me, and this is completely anecdotal, it's not based on any particular science observations, is, you know, I have a lot. I lived in LA for 20 years, so I still have a great deal of friends there. When I'm talking to my friends, they're saying how clear the sky is. You know, so things, and you know, we've all seen how clear the sky is in Beijing in comparison. The resiliency of nature is incredible. I've just noticed it here, and even though I'm not in a polluted environment, the bird life, it's always there, but it's prolific right now. So just taking away our influence and our impact at the level, you can see nature restoring itself quite quickly. If you know, again in Los Angeles, when we had the station fire, complete devastation in the San Gabriel Mountains. I was in tears the first time I went up there, and afterwards, now years on, and we know this about that region, it's used to forest fires, but it's lush and it's beautiful again. So that gives me hope in the longer term, you know, working in areas of sustainability and climate change. Maybe we're not past that tipping point. Maybe we can actually, this is a reset and we can learn something from it.
I definitely think everyone's learning something from it, whether it be from themselves, their neighbors, their work, the world, their country. What's the biggest difference so far you've seen between New Zealand and the rest of the world that makes you proud to be a Kiwi? Or what do you think? What's stuck out to you from what you've seen?
So one thing that's been interesting to be part of, since I'm living on this island presently, which I find a little strange, because I only recently returned a couple of years ago, is we're small, we're an island, but the efficiency and the consistency of message, once the government made a decision, they moved out on it very quickly, and the messaging was very clear, and that consistency, and even if you agree or disagree, we're all in this boat. And I think there was a realization and a general consensus that I've seen, that we've picked a path, or a path has been picked, and we're all in it together, because if we don't, then we're dooming it to failure. So it has kind of been something that has integrated the nation, and you don't see that at the US by virtue of not having closed borders and etc. And it's not as practical. It's gone state by state by state and even county by county. There's not that uniformity of action, so it's, and arguably we're smaller, we are an island, we've got a number of advantages, but we've taken advantage of those advantages. So I've got to give credit to that. And it's been quite impressive to watch it roll out and in action. And, things like the daily 1 p.m. news and update, those kind of things, you can something that you can check in and rely, and okay, where are we at today? And it's very consistent. I think it's very helpful for people who are sitting at home, stuck at home. There's anxiety around it. Being able to, it actually provides quite a support and a comfort.
Yeah, talking about this, the consistency, the clarity, just the clear communication on a daily basis, plus also the messaging around the clear vibe feels New Zealanders in it together. A lot of other places it's like kind of like where you do you, I'm looking out for me, you do you. Like here it definitely feels unity of purpose becomes very, very clear, and it's which makes you happy, makes it good.
Yeah, and in a way, I mean, no one's happy to be in this situation,
Well,
And
happy that you don't feel alone is
yeah, but at least I'm trying to find the positive within that, and then go, okay, well, and I do feel very fortunate, and I think we need to acknowledge how fortunate we are here, and also as as individuals, I'm fortunate. I'm still working. I still have my projects still continuing, knock on wood. And so around me, there's, I live in a tourist town, and tourism is a sector that for the time being is dead. We don't know where that's going to go, but I really feel for my community and, the friends of my kids, where they go to school, what they're going to see in terms of people losing their jobs or having to move. There's hard times coming for a lot of people around us. And that's the other thing that you do see in New Zealand, though, is we have a social infrastructure and a social welfare system that's kicking into high gear really quickly.
What do you think you're in Wanaka, I think, what's the population of Wanaka? Is it 5,000?
About that.
How do you think after Corona AC that will be the biggest differences between the regions to the cities?
Well, especially this region, which is projected, the Queenstown Lakes region is projected to be one of the hardest hit, because we're very, very, very reliant on tourism. And so, compared to the cities that they have a lot more of the kind of the tech and industries and stuff like that, we don't really have that down here. What we do have, though, is quite a few people who work here and who live here and work elsewhere, either virtually or through telecommuting or commuting. And one thought I had is, with those, what if those people start focusing on work in the region? If we can pull together some of those resources, and there will be we've got great infrastructure. We've got great infrastructure that's built up to support tourism. Can we harness that infrastructure to support other sectors where we may have resident capability? It's just that resident capability is currently telecommuting elsewhere.
Well, what do you think that could look like?
Well, I'd like to, I'm thinking of ways that I can do some of the work that I do around environmental management and sustainability, or providing measurement for to support those sectors, for example, the agricultural sectors. Is there ways that that can be applied to regional or local development down here, or supporting local industries down here, those that are not necessarily tourism based, and again in an ecological sustainability sense.
On the sustainability side, do you think that this moment's going to really, crystallize a lot of the thoughts and positive momentum and good stuff which could happen for New Zealand, and governments and councils and corporates and communities all step up the game. Like, what do you think what does New Zealand do with sustainability and its relationship with it after this? What do you think happens?
I think there's already some mumblings within Europe, and I saw that Dame Salmond came out with a statement around refocusing around the green economy, and so there's already some groundswell in that with that sentiment, and I'd like to find a way to be part of capitalizing on that. We have an opportunity here. If I again think about where I live and the backdrop, it's quite iconic. I mean, you know what it's like down here.
Yeah.
And so that backdrop and that image, New Zealand still does have that pure New Zealand image. Let's really focus on that for our produce and things that we can export, physically and virtually. Let's work on capitalizing on that. The Patagonia kind of paradigm of that's our brand.
Yeah, what would a brave message or statement or project or something chunky that New Zealand could help potentially lead after Corona when it comes to something like sustainability? Like, do you have any thoughts on like big, massive piss off things, or like what's people talking about? Okay, we need to go electric cars in 10 years, or we need to, like, do you have any? What would you like to see happen if you were brave? If New Zealand was to be brave and actually embrace it and do it, that you think could be possible for a new New Zealand?
Possible for a new Zealand? Gosh, that's that one I'm going to have to think on a little bit. That
so the engineer in you're gonna put into a mental stack. You'll break it down.
Well, what I do is I go out and network when there's things that aren't quite in my, I start, networking and brainstorming. And that process is starting already. There's various folks dotted around in various places that are creative and innovative, and they're good at making things happen. And those are the people you want to engage with. And I think, right now there's so much flux and there's so many unknowns. But as we start zeroing that in, you can start seeing a path eventuate out of it. And I know the kind of things, I'm very passionate about, let's get the real information. So I'm an engineer. So, you can give me predictions and forecasts and all that kind of stuff, but I want to, I don't care what your model says really, unless it is backed up by measurements. So I'm an experimentalist by nature. There's real value in knowledge and information, and it's unbiased and it's objective. So, observation-based management is kind of where I want to see things going, because there's accountability in that as well.
What is observation-based management? What does that mean?
Mm-hmm. That means basically for sustainable management of farming or forestry, for example, or fisheries. How do we really know the impacts? How do we know the impacts on water quality? Unless we make the measurements and we're able to do things on the appropriate scales, there's not the accountability, and there's also not the responsible use of resources. And so getting back more to the responsible use is where I want to see things going. How you turn that into an industry supporter, it's actually really pretty straightforward, because you have the information to back up your processes.
So are you talking about some type of like almost new sustainability metrics for a nation?
Yeah. And
is that not a thing?
It is a thing. It is a thing.
But what? Just real shit?
Yeah, I'm not being super clear here.
No, but I'm interested with it, because I think if you have those... Yeah, so go for it, yeah.
So there's a lot that can currently be done, and there's a lot that can be improved. And New Zealand, in my sector, provides is quite interesting because it provides a lot of challenges. There's a lot that you can do from space that doesn't work really well over New Zealand. We change too quickly. We change too quickly spatially. We change too quickly temporally. So it makes a challenge for the kinds of work that I do. But that also creates opportunity. And if we can do a better job here and actually close the loop, if you like, to demonstrate how well we can do in different use cases, that gives us something that's exportable globally. We can do it here, then it's a demonstration case that we can then show the world how to better do things.
So in this potential, I guess, new sustainability in New Zealand metric model or whatever, what data would you collect or organize differently to make that clearer? Like, would it be a clear set of things that you'd look for? I'm just trying to think, if now's the time to throw the hammer to try and get something in there, now's the time to do it, right? Like, what would you change, or what would you address?
So you hear the term shovel ready, right?
No, I'm not that smart. But please,
okay.
What does that mean?
So this is getting bandied around a lot in New Zealand at the moment, talking about shovel-ready project, right? Okay. Ones that are ready to hit the ground, yes, and we've got shovel-ready. It can take different forms. Yes, we're ready to go build that building. There are projects where the technology is mature enough that we know how to get at different aspects of the water cycle, for example. We know how to do this well. And so that's something that we can plug in. And if we had the resources, we can go fly a plane or etc. and go make those measurements as one example. There's other aspects where the tech isn't ready, but that's longer term. We know how to go about developing it, for example. So we can start chipping away, starting with the things we know how to do, and maybe with existing data sets, demonstrating that we can better understand regenerative agriculture, for example. We've got a pilot program going, and we can look at how well we're doing over a short time frame with regenerative agriculture and what the downstream benefits are. Then we find that, well, the part that we really don't understand very well is the groundwater. Groundwater is a tough one. How do we look at ground penetrating radar or whatever it happens to be to better find out what's going on in that part of the aspect of things? So we can develop a pipeline for better understanding different parts of our ecosystem, the management of our ecosystem, the exploitation of the ecosystem in terms of farming, forestry, agriculture, aquaculture, etc., in a systematic way that then starts expanding out into different sectors and different supporting those sectors, but also exporting those management paradigms to other areas in the globe.
Just like that, huh?
Just like there's near term and there's longer term, right? But there are things we can do right now, and projects that are happening right now too.
Yeah. So if you were Jacinda right now, you were to wave a little magic wand to do 3 things for sustainability in New Zealand, what would you do? No, do whatever you want, and it's totally, the rules of Dell apply. You just do your sprinkles. What would you do?
I'd look at those shovel-ready near-term things that where infrastructure can be physical or virtual, has already been laid. That there's already the pieces are in place. They just need to be glued together. And so one I can think of is regenerative agriculture. That's a check, and it has immediate impact to things that are a priority in New Zealand, and it serves to maybe impact a sector that we're reliant on, but also we need to move resources to in terms of workers that maybe currently were in the tourism sector are now looking for, refocusing where we have the labor sector.
Got it. The how long were you at NASA for?
Well, I was at JPL for 11 years, and then have continued as a NASA researcher, if you like. My primary funding source was NASA until just a couple of years ago, but I still have some NASA projects going. And actually, we have a NASA collaboration that's happening here in New Zealand that kind of fits into this, where we're going to fly what they call GNSSR, or GPS. We're looking at GPS reflected signals, but flying it on an Air New Zealand domestic aircraft, which is going to happen later in the year and give us really interesting time records around soil moisture and water. It's groundbreaking, and it's the first of a kind, and New Zealand's doing it.
That's cool. And and that will be later this year?
That'll be towards the end of the year, end of the calendar year.
When you joined NASA, did you get like a secret patch or some shit? Like, was it like a little Illuminati thing, like the early Facebook days of the PayPal mafia? What was the vibe like?
Oh, when I first went to JPL, and so
tell me you got the patch. All I want to hear, you got a patch.
I got patches. Let's see, I might have a patch in here. Oh yeah, no, lots of patches. Patches. You get all those little.
They sell them. It's a thing. Oh, yeah. I didn't know it was a thing. Mine for free. Yeah. See, no, I didn't realize it was a full-on thing.
I have a patch that flew on the space shuttle.
That is cool. Guy Rickard says, I would love a NASA shirt if you have online round side slides for probable quadruple XL for a bit. Stuff you, Guy. Guy, shit. Don't worry about him. So I'll ask a question. NASA, what was the split of engineers, male to female, at NASA?
So actually, and again, JPL, typically you'll find that there's a lot more males and females in engineering, and it's more or less half and half in science. But actually, there were quite a few women in the engineering section that I was in at JPL. So, yeah.
Well, 60-40?
Maybe not that much, but I did notice when I first went there, suddenly coming from the East Coast to Los Angeles and JPL, I didn't have the bathroom to myself anymore. I actually had to share.
Got it. Got it. What a trip. When you started working there, did you feel that it was a challenge to step up to because of the power of the brand, or did you feel that you deserved to be there and you were going to flex because you knew that that was where you were supposed to be?
It was very, very intimidating. I mean,
really?
I was super excited. Oh yeah. No, I mean, there's some big brains there. And when I gave my job talk, typically when you interview in my field, you'll give a job talk, which is a seminar on what you did your PhD on. And I gave my job talk there, and I was citing kind of the seminal paper that founded the research that I followed up on. And when I quoted it, the audience kind of giggled, and I thought I'd messed up. And it turned out that the person who wrote that work was sitting in
Yes.
And then I just felt like I couldn't say anything relevant after that. I'm like, well, what am I doing? The guy who invented this is sitting right there. I mean, it's just me with my little, thesis. So, but anyway, they gave me the job. Oh, yeah.
Is it like, see, I failed high school, so I'm not the IQ brain, but in that movie Good Will Hunting, and then the guy's trying to impress the girl, and he starts saying all this fancy, smart shit, and then Matt Damon just comes in and just throws the hammer down, and there's this kind of intellectual battle off of brains. Is that what it's like with really, really smart engineers inside? Let's be honest, they have their fourth or fifth beer, and do they start just going to town on what do scientists and engineers fight about? Or try to flex on? What's the big flex move of? Because in rugby, it'd be like, oh, McCaw's better than Kane, or this or that. What's that? What are the arguments like? It can be very heated, but yes.
Because
it's data driven shit. What's the vibe?
No, well, especially when you're building, if you're building hardware for satellite missions or whatever, then, you get one chance, you launch it, it better work. And so, the pressure is on, and so the review process is, is needed and that vetting process is needed, but you basically have to be willing to put your stuff up and have everyone just pick it apart, and you've got to be able to justify every single bit, and it goes from high level all the way down to the smallest detail. And if you haven't, and then if they find a problem, that's the whole point of it. You go away and you rework it and you address it. But yes, it can be quite adversarial.
Yeah, I can imagine brain flex.
Oh yeah. And there's definitely the element of those people who have to show that they're the smartest person in the room. And I'm used to that.
Guys.
Yeah.
No, okay. Because I mean, so in media, right? I understand media. Someone who worked at Yahoo in the year 2000, and still claims that 20 years later as a flex when we're in a totally different world, it actually doesn't work in their advantage for most up-to-date conversations if they're still reliant on the thinking from 20 years ago, obviously, right?
Absolutely.
And so within the media landscape, it's very much, that's MySpace Bebo thinking or whatever. It's kind of like looked back upon, opposed to, I'm imagining in the educational, engineering or science world, that might be the other way because they've been in it for so long that they actually that would be still more of an asset. Or is it the new thinking is the new way and the old way is kind of, I understand it, but this is a new day, Chachi, move on. You're like, how's the brains leveled?
So definitely having that heritage of experience is extremely important. And, the physics don't change, the technology often does, but the underlying principles of a lot of what we do is static, right? And learning by experience and going, if someone comes in to do, for example, Ka band radar interferometry, I can tell you, because I've spent decades, if they come in from scratch, what pitfalls they're going to run into. So I can help them come up to speed quicker because I've already gone down that path, already made those mistakes. Do they need to make them again? Sometimes you need to make them again just for your own learning. Right. But the other thing that I have seen is technology does change. And those people who have invested their careers in one avenue of things, unwilling to move on and recognize that the world has moved on and they need to too, because they feel that takes away their decades of whatever they've invested their time in. Yep, and the reality is it doesn't. They still contributed it to the overall success, because that's research. We build on others' work in order to keep it furthering forward. I'm a cog in that chain. And if I get too invested that someone then takes my work and does something even better, well, that doesn't mean that what I did is invalid. That means, I helped them get there as part of the overall process, and I should engage with them.
But yeah, you can just, at the end of the day, when it's specific science stuff, 1 + 1 is always going to equal 2, so some stuff, I guess, is debatable and some stuff is not. Where do you see?
Yeah, you've got to pull your ego out, basically.
Yeah, I just know, like, I've been in meetings, not where it's me versus someone else, but where there's been other kind of typical sides that are the same vibe, and just the energy isn't actually about the thing. It's this experience flex on, because I've done this longer, I know better type thing, and it's not very inclusive. I was just wondering, in those really smart brainy rooms, is there still, like, instead of I've got the flashiest car or I can run the fastest, or like at my high school was, who could touch the highest in the backboard? Like, do you do one finger, two fingers? Could you get a whole slap? Could you get two hands? It was a measuring thing, and I just wonder intellectually if that Goodwill Hunting scene was accurate, and I'm very stoked to know that it is 100% accurate.
It is, but the ones that often have, who truly are the smartest ones in the room, they're the ones that don't have to say much, and when they do, the room goes quiet.
Yeah, they just throw the hammer down. So that's the shit. When we come out of this thing, what's your biggest fear for New Zealand?
My biggest fear is fear. Yeah, people are scared, and when people are scared, they tend to withdraw. What's mine is mine, and I'm holding on to mine and not share. And the fear of the what ifs, we can't be close anymore. What if the virus comes back. Right now we have, you're not allowed to go on the water. You're not allowed to go hunting. You're not supposed to go out into the mountains because what if, my son climbs, he's not allowed to go climbing because what if he falls? Well, that risk is always there, but I don't want the safety police to get hold and for us to lose what I consider civil liberties. And that can get expanded into other things just than physical freedom. So that's what I'm worried about. And in the economy as well, I consider right now I have a job and my job looks secure. So I consider that a responsibility to not, even though it's uncertain times, probably, property markets upside down and all of that kind of stuff. I'm in a relatively fortunate position. So that's an opportunity to try and share with the local economy. What can I do to help people, help my local businesses, help those families that may not be as fortunate, rather than the natural instinct is to just withdraw and say, I'm going to, curtail my spending,
Yeah.
So.
It's we versus me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you think the biggest opportunity for New Zealand is globally after this?
Build its brand. It'll be interesting to see right now we're an island. We've closed our borders. It is yet to be seen. Eradication is a possibility. I don't know that it's a probability. But that creates an interesting scenario because then, okay, we're an island and we're safe. What happens from there? And how do you build a self-sustaining economy, or how do you open that economy up? So there's opportunities there. There's definitely opportunities. And being creative and being resourceful, and we do have resources, is where we need to go. And I would like it to be, building or maintaining or strengthening our brand. And our brand is clean, green, 100% pure, all of that stuff.
Round 2, 100% 2.0.
Yeah.
One of the words that popped up is hyper-local resiliency.
Hyper-local, okay.
Where it's not reliant on, global, the need for everything from global, but also supporting the local, go down to Largo and spend $6.50 on that large coffee. Go into, just really doubling down on the close local relationships to build community at a one-to-one level, like hand-to-hand combat styles, will be a big push. Yeah, I'm interested in seeing how they brand New Zealand after this, because the nation as a collective will essentially define its own narrative to the world, right? And so I think as long as we're on the same page for that, that next future thing of what could be is really exciting, because I know that if New Zealand gets, I've been talking about, if it's open and back in business to the world, that's going to bring a lot of attention and a lot of businesses and a lot of companies and a lot of noise and a lot of currency and trade and everything, virtually and physically as well. So I'm hoping my hope is that we go down that route and no one stuffs it up and makes it locked down anymore. Before we go, if you were to go back to your first day at NASA, knowing what you knew now, would you have done anything different, or would you have still gone?
Oh no, I still would have gone. It was a great experience. Oh yeah.
What would you have told yourself on day one to shortcut a bunch of shit?
It was really about confidence. Trust myself and trust my instinct. Just because someone is the loudmouth in the room doesn't mean they know better. And actually, often they don't. And so it was very intimidating. And I'm not intimidated anymore. And it would have been good to short circuit that a little bit.
Hell yeah. Because then, now you look back and you're like, whatever. But I'm imagining at the time, it's the weight of that would be substantial. So yeah, you could have probably just saved yourself probably lots of sleepless nights and worried about people who don't actually matter. Stuff them. Do you?
Yeah, I mean the way that it's set up is, at least within engineering, very adversarial. It's a very adversarial environment, and I used to shy away from that, and don't anymore, but it's not my personality to kind of go in guns blazing. But now I can just kind of let it roll off me and just
Hell yeah.
figure out how to get where we're going without engaging in that stuff.
Throw the hammer. Stuff you, Bill. That shit's wrong. I've done the formula. Look at the shit. Next. Is that how it goes, Del? Just like that?
Pretty much. It's like being able to wade through what matters and what doesn't and filter that out. And it's like, okay, I know you're upset about that, but you can go in the corner and be upset about that because we're still going to do this over here.
Yeah. I heard, so a buddy of mine was in this gnarly power move meeting, and he was a local guy that had done big stuff globally, and this other guy from overseas came over for this big meeting, had no idea and disrespected who my friend was, and he sits down there and he comes in and he's like, oh, I've done this and blah 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 blah, and then my buddy just goes, are you finished, mate? You finished? And just are you finished? He's like, yeah. He's like, oh well, my last role I just reported to X, so we can have an adult conversation now if that's okay, and just like shut the shit down. I was like, oh, here we go. Love it. No, good on you. I mean, I'm sure Del throws the hammers. I really appreciate your time. Congrats on all your success and all the brain power you put into big things that matter, especially for the world, which I think is not only important but is vital in a spot like this, especially when you're at a tipping point of what this, after Corona new world for a new New Zealand can look like. I really appreciate your time. It's awesome. Good yarns.
Okay, thanks.
Tell Sam I said what's up.
I will.
Yeah. All right, see ya.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Dr. Delwyn Moller, like a boss, rolls up, throws a hammer. Stuff you, Steve. Your science is wrong. All right. Good brains. Keep smiling. Enjoy the day. See you soon, team. Adios.